This meeting is being recorded.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Wishing you all a great Mahashivratri, and what wonderful day other than today to speak about climbing the Everest, right? And doing an Everest base camp, actually. So I'm sure this is one of the most exhilarating events that all of us would want to do in once in our lifetime, and camper is coming up with this trekking Everest base camp session. So for more details, please reach out to Camper. You can Google them up and get their details. And then there are these sessions that they do routinely. But the big question here is that while this is indeed an accelerating event of your lifetime and something would definitely that we would want to take some pictures and post it on social media and flaunt about it, of course, right? There's nothing wrong. The real question is that are we ready for it? Right? Ready for it in terms of physical fitness and physical health and wellness and everything, right? Are you ready for it? But that takes us to the question that what exactly is the difference between health, fitness, and wellness? So in the meanwhile, by the way, I'm doing this session in English. If there is anyone who wants to ask questions, and I know majority of the people who have registered for this are from Kerala. So if somebody wants to ask any questions in Malayalam, please go ahead and ask it in Malayalam. You can unmute yourself and then ask. I'll come in and answer those queries. Yeah. So as I said, while we talk about this thing, so let's talk about a few numbers that matters, right? So we're talking about an 18,513 feet of altitude, and the trekking difficulty. Of course, it's not going to be a cakewalk. It is not a walk in the park. It is indeed difficult, and that's why it is an accelerating thing to do. You're going to trek approximate distance of around 130 kilometers for a duration of around 12 days and 11 nights. So it is indeed something which requires a lot of physical and mental stamina, right? So how do we build up on that? That's what we're going to discuss it today. Started the session with asking what exactly is the difference between this health, wellness, and fitness. Should you be healthy to do this Everest base camp, or should you be fit to do this? What is the difference between these two, right? And what exactly is wellness? So let's get that in perspective first. While we talk about fitness, we are talking about physical abilities primarily. So it involves around your strength, how much of a power that you can have, how much weight can you lift, how flexible are you? All these things are parameters of fitness, right? But when we talk about health, we are talking about, is your BP normal? Do you have any body pain? Are you diabetic? Are your cholesterol levels normal? That's what health is all about, right? But remember this Venn diagram, there are certain things common between these two, right? So a healthy cardiovascular function, not being overweight, not having a belly, these are all common to health and fitness. So in a nutshell, health is not equal to fitness and fitness is not equal to health. They both are similar. There are certain aspects which are common between these two, but you cannot equate both of it. However, if you are fit, there is a very high chance, in my personal thing, I would say probably a 95% chance that if you are fit, you are healthy as well. And if you're not fit, it's just a matter of time, you'll immediately become unhealthy, right? So, and when we talk about wellness, we're talking about the rest of the other aspect, the social well-being, the mental well-being, the emotional well-being, all those aspects is what we cover, what we mean by the wellness aspect of it. So I want to just demarcate this three aspects and differentiate it, because what here matters to us, because it is a highly physical aspect, your fitness matters a lot, but your health is going to feed into your fitness and decide if you're actually fit to climb, especially since we are climbing high altitude, right? So with that in the background, if your person wants to become healthy, we keep hearing, and if you want to improve your fitness and everything, there are only primarily three things that you need to do: eat right, be physically active, and sleep well, give body your rest, and manage stress. These three things will take care of becoming fit and becoming healthy. The remaining stuff, I'm not saying they do not contribute anything at all, but in my personal opinion, it's just 2% of the overall game, right? So let's worry about the 98% aspects of becoming healthy and becoming fit. So how do we reach that? We're going to take each aspect of it, and we are also slowly, specifically driving it towards our goal, which is basically the Everest base camp. Now, before we get into that, when we talk about if a person is fit, The most important number that we speak about often is BMI. And what is BMI? The body mass index, the weight in kilogram divided by height in meter square. Height in meter square, right? So according to the BMI parameter, a person has to be between 20, below 25, between 20 to 25 for that person to be in a healthy range. About 25 is overweight, and about 30 is obese, and about 35 or 40 is like morbidly obese and things like that. So obviously, going by that, whom do you think is healthy or and is fit for this trek? The person on the left, right? The BMI is 23, below 25. The person on the right seems to be a little bulky, right? So that's the first understanding, right? Now I'm going to take the screen off from both these pictures and make you decide. Now, whom do you think is healthy? The same person of same height, two people of same height, right? The person on the left is BMI well within range, below 25. The one on the right is slightly higher, right? So BMI or weight is not the sole indicator of your health and how fit you are. Yes, it can give some aspect. Yes, if a person BMI say 35, definitely the person is unhealthy, but doesn't mean that you are below 25, you're all good and fine. And if you're around 26, 27, everything is wrong and you're overweight or you're unhealthy. No. So what exactly should you go by if you want to do this, any sort of a trekking for that matter, or any sort of physically strenuous physical activity? You should go you should also be cognizant about this number called body composition. Okay. Now, what is body composition? Our body is made up of primarily fat, muscles, and water weight, and bone weight. These four aspects is what our body is. What percentage of your body is muscle and what percentage of our body is fat? This is basically what we mean by body composition. We typically talk about body fat percentage when we talk about body composition. So if you are wondering where exactly do you fall under the body composition, I have a graded figures kept in here. You can kind of look into this and kind of have a clue as to where do you fit in with regards to the body composition, right? And what is a healthy range? A healthy range for a female would be somewhere around 15% to 25% of body fat. And a healthy range for a man would be somewhere around 12% to 20% of body fat. This is going to be a healthy body fat percentage range, right? You can kind of, I'm sure you know how you look in the mirror, probably will have an idea as to where do you fit into this. Of course, there are methods to measure body fat percentage. There are some of the gyms would have this body composition or body fat percentage analyzer in body machines. There are also other things like caliper scales and other aspects to kind of check body fat percentage. But this is a reasonably good indicator. There are also, when we work with our clients, helping them with lifestyle diseases and everything, and work with them on the body fat reduction, we have our own methods of doing it by measuring the centimeters around the neck and abdomen, and rest few more parameters, including weight, height, etc. Right? So anyways, that apart, so body composition is what I would suggest that you need to worry about if you're doing this trekking or Everest base camp, and not just look at only BMI, right? So we need to be improving that body composition to between the ranges that I earlier mentioned, 12 to 20% for men and 15 to 25% for women. Now, let's start with the exercise preparation. So the obvious questions that we might be having in our mind would be, what exercise should I be doing? How much should I do it? When do I do it? And how to basically improve the fitness and health so that, you'll be able to do this thing without much of a difficulty, right? Now, when we talk about exercises, broadly, exercises can be divided into three types. First type is cardiovascular exercises. That would be running, swimming, cycling, dancing. Cardiovascular, anything which is related to your heart and your lung capacity, is cardiovascular exercises, right? So you would basically pant for breath, you run, you do a Zumba, or you play a tennis, or you do a football, you'd be running around a lot, and hence you would be panting a lot. This is basically cardiovascular exercises, right? Sensibly, would you be doing a cardiovascular exercise? Would you run a marathon if you're more than 15 kilograms of overweight? No, right? Similarly, if a person has any osteoarthritis, or say rheumatoid arthritis, or an IVDP, an intervertebral disc prolapse, that's a very bad idea to start running a lot and doing a cardio, right? So we need to be sensible when we look at exercises, right? So that's the first type of exercises that we want to talk about. So while we are on the cardio exercises, right? Now, these things are important. I'll come to it as to why this is important, especially with regards to our goal of trekking and preparing yourself for such a base camp. One of the numbers that we need to be cognizant and be careful about while we do cardiovascular exercises is your heart rate. What is heart rate? The number of times your heart is beating or contracting or expanding in a minute. How many times is your heart doing that? That's your heart rate. Now, heart rate, there is a resting heart rate. Obviously, if you do physical exertion and physical activity, the rate increases, right? But there is an upper limit of that rate, right? If the rate becomes too high, then that is going to be difficult for your heart. So what is a heart rate that you need to be looking at? Typically, reduce your age from 220. You have a number, right? So let's suppose a person is 40 years of age. 220 minus 40 would be 180. 90% of 180 would be a safe upper limit for your heart rate, right? 90% of 180 would be a safe upper limit for your heart rate. So that would be what? 90 plus 72 would be 160, would be a rough heart rate, the maximum upper limit, a safe limit for that kind of a person. Of course, these are all indicatives. Remember, figures can lie, liars can figure. So these are all indicative numbers to broadly give us a perspective on where do we fall with regards to the heart rate aspect while we do cardio exercises. Now, obviously, cardiovascular exercise, I earlier mentioned that two of the important organs which come into this thing here are heart and our lung. So when we breathe in and breathe out, obviously the lung capacity is being improved. But I also want to bring in a certain aspect of breathing exercises, which is going to make a huge impact in terms of improving your cardiovascular ability, especially at a high altitude levels, is to breathe in the right way. Now, what do I mean by breathing in the right way, and why am I even talking about it? Because, see, we live in a world wherein the social media world, wherein pictures are being clicked and posted on Instagrams and Facebooks. So we definitely don't want to show our tummy. So if we, for example, if you're going for a party or a marriage or with friends and we're posing for a picture, what would we do? We will tuck our tummy in, right? We would not want everyone to see our tummy. So that's something that we normally do. So while we tuck our tummy in, what happens is that we would be using only our upper part of the chest. We would be using only the upper part of the chest, and we would end up doing very shallow, short breath without involving the lower lobe or lower parts of the lung. What will it do? It will make our heartbeat higher, heart rate higher. So what is the right thing to do? Include deep diaphragmatic breathing. And now this is important not just for improving lung capacity or to prepare yourself for any sort of these kind of a high altitude trekking. It is also important to reduce the anxiety, reduce blood pressure, etc. Why? See, when somebody is angry, what do we tell them? Like, if I'm very angry and worked up, my friends would tell me, Rajiv, calm down, breathe. Take a deep breath is what they will say, right? So taking deep diaphragmatic breath will have an impact on how your heart rate settles down and brings down to normalcy, and also brings down your blood pressure. Why? Because what is diaphragm? Diaphragm is this dome sort of a structure right below the lung. And when you do deep diaphragmatic breath, which is basically involving the entire lung, it is also known as deep abdominal breath. What happens is that diaphragm will push down the entire pushed down because the lung is expanding. And when the diaphragm is going down, all the organs below that get pushed. So your stomach will come out a little bit. Okay. And when you breathe out, the diaphragm will go back up, all the organs get normalized, and then the stomach will come in a little bit. So make sure you are doing deep abdominal breath and not just only the chest, upper chest level breathing. Very, very important, because this helps in improving the breathing capacity, the lung capacity. It also brings down your blood pressure. In fact, if you have a fitness band or an Apple Watch or whatever, wear that fitness band and then do this deep abdominal breath, and you would be amazed to see how your heart rate settles down. The lower limit of heart rate in a normal scenario would be around 60 to 65 or 70. But if a person is very athletic, involved in a lot of running and other cardio exercises, then the heart rate can even be lower, below 60, around 50 also, right? But for most people, 60 to 70 is the resting heart rate, and it goes up to around 120, 130, or even up to 140, 50, depending upon the level of exertion, right? In a normal scenario, heart rate falling below 60 or going very above 120, 130 for a longer periods of time, both are bad, okay? We need to be careful about it. Going below 60 is called bradycardia. Going above 120, 130 is called a tachycardia in a sustained manner for a longer duration, irrespective of any physical strain or whatever, right? So that's something definitely needs a medical intervention, a cardiologist intervention. Anyways, so this breathing is important to improve lung capacity, especially important because what we are going to do is an Everest base camp. That comes us to the second kind of exercises, which is yoga, right? Now, yoga is all about flexibility, stretches. It is a lot more than just flexibility. It also connects the mind, body, soul. It kinds of calms you down. A lot of asanas, a lot of breathing techniques, the meditation aspects of yoga all adds on to the wellness and overall well-being of it. That is the second kind of exercises that we want to talk about, right? The third kind of exercises is strength training or the weight training, which is basically any exercises which involves your muscles. Why? Because your ability of your muscles to climb or do certain things or carry something is also important while you do a trek or things like this, right? So what happens when you take, for example, going to a gym and lifting a pair of dumbbells is a sort of weight training. What happens when I take a dumbbell and suppose if I do a biceps curl, it is this biceps, which is this biceps muscle, which is pulling this dumbbell, right? So these muscle fibers are across a resistance or a tension. And these muscle fibers, because of the resistance across it, will break. And when it breaks, the body rebuilds it. This is called resistance training. This is because of the resistance across the muscle fibers. So think of it that way, right? Now, these are the three types of exercises. Obviously, as I said, apply common sense while we do get into exercises. So if you have a piles or a fistula, would you go to a gym and then do a heavy squat? Very bad idea, right? If you have a hernia, would you go to a gym and do a deadlift? Very bad idea, right? So be sensible. Like earlier said, if you have an arthritic knee, don't go running. So be sensible about the weight training also. So these are the three types of exercises broadly, right? Now which comes to the one more thing. Walking is not an exercise. Okay, I'm sure some of you might be wondering, why is walking not an exercise? I lost weight through walking and all those things. But that's a different discussion altogether. Walking is a cardiovascular activity. There is a difference between an activity and an exercises. Activity is definitely good. It's better than being a couch potato, but it is not going to improve your metabolism or improve your cardiovascular endurance or any of those aspects by simple plain walking. So I'm not saying stop walking, but don't rationalize walking as a sort of any exercise. It's an activity. Okay. Now, so that takes us to the question. I mentioned about three different types of exercises. Now, for our present goal, which is trekking or doing an Everest base camp, what parameter of fitness should you worry about? Should you worry about your strength? Should you worry about your power? Should you worry about your endurance? Right? And the answer is endurance. Right? What is endurance? How long can you endure a task? How long can you do a particular kind of task? That's what is endurance is, right? And what endurance are we really talking about? Primarily cardiovascular endurance, right? So how long can you do a cardiovascular activity is what we're talking about. Yes, muscular endurance and muscles capacity also is important. But for this discussion that we are aiming at, which is basically preparing for a trek or an Everest base camp, cardiovascular endurance is extremely important, right? Now, so how do we prepare for these kind of things? Now, as I earlier said, among three exercises, the one that I will give more importance would be mostly the cardiovascular endurance and the strength-based training, right? The weight training and the cardiovascular exercise. These are the two exercises that I will give more importance to. I am not saying yoga is any lesser. Yoga is definitely helpful. It definitely improves lung capacity. All those aspects are there. So don't go and stop that. I'm not saying it is bad or I'm not saying it is not useful. But for our current thing, these are the two aspects which gives a lot of value add and improving the overall health and fitness parameter, right? So how do you go about doing it? Cardiovascular exercises would be aerobic training, right? Running, swimming, cycling, and all those things, right? Dancing, all those things. So how do you go about doing it? Now, start doing a spinal loading cardio instead of cycling. So I said panting for breath, right? So something which also requires our body to stand up and give that stability and take that load and then do that cardiovascular exercise. That's what I mean by spinal loading cardiovascular exercises. That would be treadmill, a stair stepping. Certain gyms would have that stairs that you can climb, right? It keeps rotating, that thing. Or even elliptical, the elliptical, also known as cross trainer. These are all the things which is basically a spinal loading cardiovascular exercises. Cycling is also cardiovascular exercise, especially that static cycle. But it's not going to be. I would say between static cycling and doing an elliptical, I would suggest elliptical if you're planning for a trekking or if you're planning for an Everest base camp, right? I'm not saying cycling is bad, but in our requirement, this is what we need: a spinal loading cardiovascular exercises. With regards to strength training, right? When we said I improve strength, I earlier said took an example of a biceps curl. Now, for any trekking, what we need to improve is not our biceps. Okay, the muscles needs to be improved, but which muscles specifically? Those would be your calves, your gastrocnemius muscles, the muscles on your leg, on your lower leg, lower part of the leg, the muscles on the hips, quadriceps, hamstrings, gluteus maximus, the glutes, the back muscles on your back, on your bum. These are all the muscles which takes up a lot of the takes our body and allows us to climb and allows us to give that strength, right? So when we talk about exercises, primarily involve lower body strength and endurance exercises. Of course, you need to involve your upper body exercises also, but remember, to climb, what really helps is the muscles on your legs, not the muscles on your biceps, right? Common sense. So these are the exercises that you should be going with regards to training. Now, hiking specific trainings are there. So there are, I'm sure camper is already doing a preparatory trek, I guess. These kind of preparatory treks are also helpful because based on whatever that you have trained in this gym and running and swimming and cycling or whatever, you're actually putting it to test in the real environment. Because see, this doing a treadmill or doing a stair stepping inside a gym is very different from climbing the actual mountain or a hill. Why? Because the altitude is changing, the environment is changing, the climate and temperature is changing, which all will have an impact on the physiological aspects of our body. So even though you do these home-based exercises, are highly suggested that you also do hiking specific training and preparatory treks to be able to do these kind of, accelerating once in a lifetime kind of things. Now, so that's about the exercise part. If there is any questions, I can take them. You can please unmute and ask. Otherwise, I'll take all questions towards the end, right? So that finished the first pillar of becoming fit and healthy for a trek. That is done. Now the second one, which is what? Eating healthy and diet prepping, right? Now, what do I mean by diet prepping? Right, Sudeshna, you have any questions?
Yeah, hi Rajiv. You were talking about BMI, right? So my question is, when you are exercising and doing your strength training, your muscles increase, right? So your BMI is on the higher side. So how do you define that? That was my question.
How do I define what?
Like my BMI will be higher, right, than normal, right, because my muscles are more. So, right. So how do we address that?
No, so there is nothing to be addressed there. It's a good thing. It's a good problem to have, right? Mm-hmm. So while we lose weight, see, losing weight is one of the most, I'm sorry for a lack of a better word, stupidest goal that a person should look at. It should actually be to improve metabolism. Why? Because if you improve metabolism, everything else is by a byproduct. Okay, improved diabetes is a metabolic disorder. Thyroid is a metabolic disorder. So when you improve metabolism, you kind of remove all lifestyle disorders, and also you will start looking younger. You will start feeling younger. You start feeling better. So improving, and when you improve metabolism, this body fat loss and muscle gain is automatic. Why? Because when in our body, muscle tissues are metabolically more active than fat. Muscle tissues burn more than thrice the amount of calories per hour as compared to fat tissues. So if you have higher muscle mass, then your body is metabolically more active. The amount of energy spent by your body is higher, which means that you're less prone to gaining weight and things like that. So do not worry too much about BMI. just because you are slightly on the upper, just about 25. At the same time, don't be too happy that, oh, I am 23, 24 only and my BMI is well within range. I keep giving this example all the time. It is true that if a person gains weight, there is a very high chance of diabetes. But is everyone who is diabetic overweight? We have seen enough and more number of people around us who are not overweight, BMI well within the range, but still diabetic, right? So there, the problem is not BMI, the body composition. You ask that person to look for the body fat percentage, it will be higher. So total weight will be lesser, but in that, fat mass will be higher, muscle mass will be lesser. That's the problem. That's what I mean by body composition. So to answer your question, do not worry about it. And muscle is not something that you gain very easily. 700 grams of muscle is what you can gain at a maximum level per month if you train so hard and if your nutrition is on the point and if your rest is also on point. So a person is not going to gain a lot of weight immediately. 700 grams is what a person can gain in terms of muscles in a month. A maximum upper limit is that. Did I answer that question, Krishna?
Yeah, thanks. Yes, Rajiv. Thank you so much.
Right. So that takes us to the second pillar, which is diet prepping, right? So what exactly do I mean by diet prepping? So let's understand all these things, right? One of the common things that people will immediately have in their mind is the idea of losing weight or gaining weight, right? So it all comes down to calories. Okay, I was telling this to one of my friends yesterday. There are 10 ways to lose weight. Number 1, calorie deficit. Number 2, calorie deficit. Number 3, calorie deficit, and so on and so forth. Number 10 is also calorie deficit. Now, I am not saying hormones do not play a role or other aspects do not play a role. They do. They do play a role by meddling into this calorie in, calorie out balance and flipping that balance. Classic example, if a lady is hypothyroid, the energy expenditure will be low because the metabolic energy spend will be low. Naturally, with a very small amount of energy consumed or eaten, the person will be on a high energy, calorie surplus, right? So how do you gain weight? If you eat more than what you spend, excess energy becomes stored. And that's how a person gains weight, right? So an amount of energy that you spend by your metabolism, if that is low, then even with slighter amount of energy that you have eaten, you will end up in being on a calorie surplus. The person gains weight, right? So calorie in versus calorie out, this balance decides if a person is going to gain weight or lose weight. Quite commonsensically, if a person wants to lose weight, person has to be on a calorie deficit. How do you do that? You either eat lesser than what you spend, or you spend more energy than what you eat, right? Very commonsensical. But yes, hormones do come in and play and flip around this balance by mostly playing around the metabolism or sometimes making you feel very weak and very tired and fatigued so that you don't feel like doing any sort of physical activity, thereby reducing your calorie expenditure, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, everything, the final aspect which decides gain weight or lose weight is calorie expenditure. Hormones can mediate this aspect, but cannot bypass this whole calorie balance equation and decide if a person gains or loses weight, right? So I just thought of just mentioning this aspect because some of you might also want to lose some body fat or lose weight as part of any trek or, especially the Everest base camp. So how do you go about planning your meal? Now, let me tell you the amount of energy or calories that is required for your body. So where does this calorie come from? We get calories from protein, fat, and carbohydrate. Okay. So the amount of the total calories that a person needs, amount of protein, fat, and carbohydrate that a person needs, all the four vary from person to person. Okay. It depends upon the age of a person. A younger person needs more calories, more protein. It depends upon the gender of a person. A man needs more protein as compared to women because man has a higher muscle mass. It also depends upon physical exercises and physical activity. A person who's training for an Everest base camp definitely needs higher amount of protein, right? It also depends upon medical conditions. If a person is having high uric acid, can that person load up protein? If a person is having a diabetic nephropathy or has a high creatinine in the blood or has frothy urine, which is albumin or protein loss in urine, can he or she have a lot of protein intake? No, right? So when I talk about a balanced meal, let's understand that there are no magic diets, and I'm definitely against all these keto, veto, all those kind of nonsense. Eat balanced meal, including your vegetables, your carbohydrates, your protein, and make sure it is sustainable and sensible within your eating habits. I am a Malayali. You ask me to have a Punjabi food, I will love that for a day or maximum two because it's different. But I cannot survive on it because that's not what I am used to having, right? I need to get back to my, you need to get back to my dosa, idli and puttu, right? So make it sustainable, and it is possible to become healthy in that sustainable aspect, but go balance. You include vegetables, include fiber, include fruits, include carbohydrates, include protein, include fat, all this kind of things, right? Do not vilify carbs. Carbs are not a villain. You need to have at least 300 to 400 grams of carbohydrates in your meal. But yes, there is a green asterisk on top of it. Terms and conditions apply, right? If a person is diabetic, there are certain things which needs to be looked into by these numbers. So these are all broad numbers, okay? And protein is not the poster boy of becoming healthy. Protein is important, especially if you're doing physical activity. But how much protein? Protein, that also varies from person to person. A rough estimate will be 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. Okay, so if you're 70 kgs of weight, 70 grams of protein is what you need. Okay, provided you are exercising and all those things, and that can go up to 1.5 times. Okay, 1.5 into 70, like that, right? Up to that, it's okay. But again, terms and conditions apply. As I said, if there is uric acid, it can increase gout issues and things like that. So there are certain protein that you need to remove and so on and so forth. So I'm not getting into all that aspect. So that's basically how do you go about doing the protein. Again, I'm not getting into what are protein sources. I'm sure you know all that. Lentils, pulses, non-vegetarian sources, etc. Right? Include healthy fat. What are healthy fat? See, fat is a double-edged sword. If you cut down fat, your health will go for a toss. A lot of nutrient deficiency, vitamin A, D, E, and K gets absorbed only in the presence of fat. So do not cut down fat. Fat is also important for hormonal balance, especially sex hormones. All sex hormones are steroid-based hormones. So you cannot cut down fat completely. But the problem is that some fat can increase cholesterol. And the funny thing is that some fat can reduce cholesterol. So fish oil, flaxseed oil will reduce cholesterol. But a dalda, vanaspati, trans fat, margarine, hydrogenated vegetable oil, these will increase cholesterol, right? So when we talk about fat, include healthy fat. What are they? Monounsaturated fat. Examples are olive oil, avocado, nuts, almonds. These are all healthy fats. So include more of healthy fat in your diet and cut down all these kind of trans fat, all reheated oil. Most of the deep fried food will be reheated oil or will be trans fat. So cut down deep fried food. These kind of things are important, not just for base camp or trekking, but for overall health in general, right? Obviously, I earlier said include a fiber-rich vegetables and fruits, which also gives a lot of vitamins and minerals also, right? So that's basically what I mean by prepping for a healthy meal. Now, what are some of the supplements that may help when you go ahead doing such a trek? Omega-3. What is omega-3? Excuse me. So omega-3 is basically a set of fatty acids. It reduces inflammation. It reduces bad cholesterol in our blood. They are found naturally in fatty fish. It is also found in seeds. So these are, we also get that omega-3 capsule. So I would suggest, because omega-3 also get destroyed at high heat. So even if it is fish, if you kind of fry it, then most of the omega-3 gets destroyed. So I would suggest that you get a good quality omega-3 of at least 1000 mg, possibly EPA and DHA, okay, eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid. Omega-3 something that I would suggest. EPA and DHA are in ample quantities in cod liver oil, fish oil, etc. Right? Flaxseed is ALA. What I would suggest, if you are okay in having non-vegetarian or fish-based, then I would suggest fish oil or at least an algae oil. Okay. Magnesium. Why? Most of us invariably will be deficient on magnesium, and magnesium is important for muscle quality, muscle ability of muscles to contract and fire appropriately, and also for proper sleep. And magnesium even has an impact on our cognitive mood and general sense of well-being also. And most of us go deficient on magnesium, especially people who have acidity and are taking acidity-based tablets, including pantoprazole, omeprazole. They all go low on magnesium. So what are magnesium-rich food? Nuts, pumpkin seeds. These are all rich in magnesium, almost all green leafy vegetables. But I would suggest if you can take a magnesium glycinate supplement, that would be a good idea to have it. 1 capsule a day, magnesium glycinate. But Do not club magnesium glycinate with any of your other medications. Okay, if you are on any BP tablets, antihypertensives, or maybe any other anti-convulsants for epilepsy like valproic acid and things like that, or even certain things such as anticoagulants such as aspirin, ecosprin, etc. Do not have your magnesium supplement along with it. Keep them separate. Okay, but magnesium supplement definitely helps. And even if you check your blood level magnesium, sometimes it might show adequate, but you might still be deficient in magnesium. Why? Because blood shows only roughly around 1.5 to 2% of your overall magnesium stores. So when you look at your blood, which is only 2% of your magnesium stores, it might show as adequate. But in the overall in the body, you might be inadequate. So have a magnesium glycinate supplementation. The chances of overdosing is very, very low. And even if you feel overdosed, the maximum that a person would get with an overdose magnesium glycinate is a diarrhea. So you can go ahead and have magnesium glycinate supplementation. Protein powder, whey protein. Whey is a protein made from milk. Is the best source of protein. I do not suggest any other protein. Whey is it's not a brand of a protein, it's a type of a protein. You will get many brands giving whey protein, get a whey protein. I don't suggest other kind of locally available protein, which comes with a lot of sugar and carbs. So when you buy a protein powder, just look at the calories and see how much sugar and carbohydrate it has. It should be much lesser. It should be primarily be protein. Okay. So I'm not taking the brand names here. So be careful about that and specifically look for whey protein. It will be a good idea to also probably add probiotics in your diet, including curd and all those kind of fermented food, etc. Will improve the gut health. And remember, gut health has a huge impact on overall well-being, including mental well-being. So include that. Electrolytes, obviously you might be sweating, I don't know, depending upon the temperature and how you're climbing and all those things. You might end up losing a lot of electrolytes. So including the right amount of electrolytes is also important. So supplements, there are electrolyte supplementations available. You could do that. Or a healthy way or natural way of doing that will be including a lot of, for example, the nariyal pani, right? The coconut water is rich in electrolytes. So you can include potassium. You can include that. You can include certain banana is rich in potassium. So these kind of food, that's why banana is a most favorite fruit of any sports person. So include these kind of things. Supplements are also available. You might be able to it's an easy immediate source. I generally do not suggest over-reliance on supplementations. It is okay to have it for a week or two during the preparatory phase just to kind of make things easier. But relying on it and having it for more than 2 weeks is definitely not something that I would suggest, unless there is a real need for it to do it for a certain duration of time. So these are the supplements that might be helpful. 2 weeks before your trek, again, I'm repeating the importance of balanced meal, adequate sleep, no late nights, at least 3 liters of water. This thing is 1 liter of water per 20 kgs of body weight. That's what it. No alcohol. No smoking, at least reduce smoking significantly. It reduces the lung capacity. No smoking. And people who are smoking, please have a vitamin C capsule once in a while, vitamin C tablets, because it is helpful for people who smoke. So reduce smoking, stop smoking if possible. Avoid eating out. Stick to familiar food so that you don't bring in any sort of indigestion or any such issues. And do not get into any of this keto nonsense in the name of becoming healthy or losing some weight or 2 weeks before the trek. Don't do any of those nonsense. Stick to balanced meal. Now, 1 week before your trek, do more of carbohydrate loading. What is carbohydrate? Why is this important? Because this improves the glycogen stores in our body. What is glycogen store? Think of glycogen store like your glycogen is like the petrol in your car. Okay. Now, if you're going out and you're going on a long drive, will you not fill your tank 100%? Right? We'll fill it full, right? So that's essentially what we are doing. So glycogen is basically glucose molecules stuck together, which is basically what is stored inside the muscle. So in the biceps, muscles inside, not just biceps, any muscle for that matter, inside is glycogen, and glycogen is what is used as energy. So when you load carbohydrates, especially after exercise, it's called carb backloading. including a carbohydrate rich meal and including more of carbohydrate, especially 1 week before the trek, will allow you to increase your muscle glycogen stores. It's like being able to store more amount of energy to be able to be used while you trek. So do that. At least reach 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Adequate water intake, 8 hours of sleep. There is no compromise on that. You can start supplementation at least 1 to 2 weeks before, and do not overtrain, do not over exercise. This is the time that you need to kind of taper down exercises and make your body comfortable, right? 1 week before trekking is not when you take up a lot of exercises and start doing a lot of things that your body is not capable of. Now, certain medical conditions that you need to be worried about and certain things that you need to be testing. Check your HB levels, hemoglobin levels, do a complete blood count, check your lipid profile or cholesterol profile, vitamin D levels, blood pressure, etc. at least 1 month before the trek. Okay. Why is HB important? Hemoglobin is what actually carries oxygen in our blood. If your HB is low, or meaning if you're anemic, your oxygen will not, blood will not be able to carry enough amount of oxygen, right? Why is oxygen important? Oxygen is important for that respiratory aspect, right? It's important for the aerobic respiration of the muscles. So when you run, when you climb, the muscles needs to be provided with this nutrients, and oxygen needs to be provided there. If the blood is not able to carry enough amount of oxygen because your hemoglobin level is low, obviously you will start feeling exertional dyspnea or exertional breathlessness. You will start you feeling breathless when you start doing a little bit of an exertion. Because why? Your oxygen requirement has increased and your body is not able to provide it because your hemoglobin count is low, right? So check your HB levels. If it is most commonly the anemia would be an iron deficiency anemia, in which case you might need to have an iron supplementation, or sometimes it might even be because of folic acid or vitamin B12 and other things. Depending upon that, you need to manage and improve your hemoglobin levels. Check your cholesterol levels. Vitamin D levels, it also has an impact on your overall, overall mood and overall strength and ability to do things. Check that. BP, very, very important. Generally, be wary about these kind of bulleted conditions. If there is any heart health conditions, if you are aware of having failed a treadmill test, if the treadmill test came as positive for inducible ischemia, or any of such things, or if you're aware of your echocardiogram showing specific numbers being bolded or underlined or red, your ejection fraction of your heart lesser. These are all little medical terms. But if any of these things, if you're aware of it having shown some issues or whatever, then please talk to your doctor, get a go ahead before doing these things. Breathing issues, including COPD, the chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, asthma, these kind of issues, if you have, even then, you just please talk to your doctor and get a go ahead. And it's extremely important for such people to start doing that diaphragmatic breathing and train themselves and be ready for these kind of treks. Knee pain, I don't have to explain further, it's very commonsensical there, but understand knee pain can be for 100 reasons. It could be a meniscal tear, it could be a simple osteoarthritis, which is wear and tear. It could be an autoimmune rheumatoid arthritis, it could be uric acid, it could be multiple things. So understand what this knee pain is about, what is the reason behind it, and accordingly get that sorted through a combination of medical management and lifestyle management. Okay, how you manage lifestyle for a rheumatoid arthritis is very different from how you manage a knee pain because of a uric acid. Okay, so understand that part and then do it accordingly. Arthritis I already covered. Altitude sickness. What is altitude sickness? When you climb up, because the temperature might fall and the level of oxygen also changes, you might get this altitude sickness, including headache, nausea, loss of consciousness, feeling a little hazy. These kind of issues could happen. So if you are getting this sort of an altitude sickness or AMS, acute mountain sickness, then there are certain things that you need to be aware of. Right. So a couple of things here on the day of trekking. Okay. Now, carry some basic medication such as for injury, for cold, cough, some inhaler, some pain balms, etc. These are all the over-the-counter OTC normally available non-prescription things that you can actually get with you. It will be a smart idea to carry some glucose powder, Glucon-D or something, and some electrolytes. So even if you feel very, very tired, if you think your glycogen stores have depleted, you want to drink something, immediately have glucose that gets sorted. But if you're diabetic, terms and conditions apply, okay? These are all broad guidelines. Now, certain aspects that I've given, I've highlighted it in red because you need to do this only based on doctor consultation. This is based for you only for information. Please do not do this. I am not saying that you should go out and buy these tablets and start having it. Okay. That's why I'm saying this. So big disclaimer there. But it might be a good idea to talk to a general physician and ask, can I carry a tab diamox or acetazolamide, helpful for reducing the altitude sickness? Okay. But ask your doctor, the doctor has to tell you. Paracetamol if you get headaches, promethazine for nausea and related problems or issues if you feel. These are the tablets that one could carry. But are you fit for having this is something that your doctor has to tell you. But it might be a smart idea to check with your doctor probably at least a week before the trekking, week or two before the trekking. Do it 2 weeks before the trekking because promethazine and acetazolamide and all, I think needs to be had at least 2-3 days before the trekking day. I guess so, but I'm not the right person to say this. So please take this only based on doctor's consultation and do not self-medicate. These are not meant for, and this is not a advice to have these medicines. Okay, very, 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 very bold, underlined, red capital letters. Right. So that's the thing about the trekking thing. I hope these things were helpful. I just want to kind of introduce ourselves. Thank you to Camper for giving this opportunity to do this session. NuvoVivo is an online health and wellness company. We are into lifestyle diseases management. We are into medical fitness approach. So fitness is all about looking sexy, building muscles, looking great. But while we do that, you can't do a simple reduce carb and you can't do a simple reduce carb and increase protein and workout sort of a mere fitness approach to improve health and fitness, especially if a person is after 30 years of age. Because if you do that, uric acid might increase. If a person is diabetic, before you do increase protein, you need to check if there is albumin in the urine or if the creatinine level is normal. So these things are important. That's where the relevance of medical fitness comes in. So we deal with these kind of mentioned lifestyle diseases, managing that lifestyle diseases, and possibly even helping them reduce the medication dosages over a period of time through structured scientific lifestyle interventions, including diet and exercises. The programs are online, so we work with the clients from across the globe. We also work with sports team. We were associated with the Kerala Police as part of the Jawaharlal Nehru, the boat race last year. So we work with sports team also. We also work with some cricketers and footballers with regards to their sports related fitness activities and planning for diet and exercise for them also. So if there is anything that you need help on, we are there to help you with regards to the programs and everything. Just the last page. Thank you for patient listening. There's a book that I wanted to introduce yourself to. My book that I had written last year, The Midriff Crisis. It's about this medical fitness approach to look younger, be fit, and reverse the age, and in the process, even manage lifestyle diseases. The book is available on Amazon. You can buy it on Amazon if this kind of an approach or information is something that you're interested in. Definitely, you will have some tidbits there to understand with regards to what you should do and should not do to improve your overall well-being, your fitness, and your health from a medical fitness perspective. Yeah. Thank you for the patient listening. Thank you, Camper, for giving this opportunity to talk to all the people who have signed up for this program. And I hope this was helpful. If there is any questions, I will take them now. Thank you.